Well, basically, it's about a guy called Daniel Blake who plays in his late 50s. He's been a joiner. He's worked all his life, paid in, to the society. He's been looking after his wife who's had mental illness. She dies. He's on his own. He's a widower. And he has a massive big heart attack, basically. So Daniel thinks, OK, well, I'm going to get help from the state. There's there's a welfare state and I'll be able to get help from that. And he finds that the way the system is at the moment and the way it's been set up, that it's about ticking boxes, austerity, saving money, and not about the people who it's trying to help. And Daniel runs into all this red tape, and he meets a single mum who's been moved out of London from a hostel because they're trying to move sort of people out of the areas where they live because it's too expensive to house people in London. And she gets moved 300 miles to Newcastle with her 2 kids. She's something like 15 minutes late for a appointment at the job centre, so there's a big sort of scene there. She gets sanctioned and Daniel meets her there and they become friends, and they both try to help each other. He goes and does a flat up and he becomes a sort of a father figure to her and a granddad to her 2 kids, and basically they help each other. And it's all about austerity and food banks and basically the poor and people who are needing help not getting it.
Thank you for coming in, Maria. It's great that you've come in to talk about a film that is going to be, I think, a massive success, but also it's going to bring or open a lot of people's eyes to what's going on in the world. Obviously, we're here to talk about I, Daniel Blake, and the benefit system in the UK. So regarding the sanctions and the assessments, how does that actually work? Say they assess someone who has back problems or stress problems, and then they say you're able to work. How can someone say that you're able to work even though there's a history of all these problems?
I don't understand it myself. I think it's cruel. It's abhorrent, basically. I mean, if I went for a job, what people don't get is if I go for work and I take a job and, like, say if I lose my temper because I've got problems with anger issues, it's not good for me working colleagues. It's also... If me back gives, I'm going to be off for 4.5 months, so I'm not a reliable source of employment to the company or whatever. So basically, there's no excuse for what they're doing to people other than to save money. And when they're saving money, they're putting people into destitution and poverty, and people are having to rely on food banks and stuff. I actually can budget quite well on the ASA, but if I go onto the RAG and I get the £73 less the council tax and the rent that I've got to pay up front, it's going to leave us with minus £18 to live off and cause debts, and I'm going to have to live with no heat, no internet, and they want you to have internet for job seeking in any way. Basically, they expect you to stare at 4 walls and die, and that's how it is.
Let's just for a second as well, just talk through a couple of the things there. DWP, for everyone, hopefully you'll know that that's the Department of Works and Pensions. But could you explain what RAG is and what ASA is for people who don't know?
ASA is basically a support component, so they know that you've got a health problem. And I actually currently get that, but they wouldn't give us PIP. I did apply for PIP because I felt like I was having to pay for taxis and things to get shopping in sometimes because I have pets, and you have to buy tin stuff, and I've got like problems with me elbows as well as me back. Which, there you go, as you can see, I get swelling. And basically what happens is if I'm doing repetitive stuff, my elbows get sore, and when my back goes, it impacts on my knees, so I have problems with bending.
And that's the ASA side of things. The
RAG was work-related assessment phase and group, which basically means that you have to look for work, but they don't now give you travel expenses for that, so you've also got to find the travel expenses out of the money, so you're left with less than £40 to live on for your gas, electric, your water rates, your council tax. And mostly people are spending about £30 on food, like single people on benefits. So people are basically left where they can't pay their bills, they can't pay their heating, or they can't pay the rent, so because they need to eat. People's going to food banks. I've seen people going to the places where you get fed, because I volunteered a little bit there. And basically people who are on benefits are having to go there because they can't afford to maintain their flat if they don't.
Where do you think over the past few years it's gone wrong, and why?
I think basically, I don't know if I can be political here, but I think the Tory party and the old Labour, when it was Blairite Labour, kind of put in a lot of demonisation into the media to turn people against welfare claimants and to people who are on the sick. So what we've got is a society, it's like linked to hate, and we're getting hate crime. People's getting attacked on the street who's disabled. People's trying to judge everybody and they don't know anybody's lives. You know, like people don't know what people have lived through mentally or physically, and they're bullying people. And just because somebody can walk one day doesn't mean like the next day that they can be super fit. If the back's went, you know, you could be out for 4 months and people don't see you then. So they're judging you on when they see you, but they don't judge you on when they don't see you and you're stuck in the house feeling depressed or whatever. They don't understand that people can't contemplate. And I think we've become a nation of curtain twitchers through the media demonisation and through the TV programmes like the Benefit Street and that's on Channel 5. Basically what that's done is led everyone to associate benefit cheats, people cheating benefits with criminality, but the actual stat for that was 0.7% last year when I looked. And I think I've seen one recently what says 0.5%. So like everyone thinks there's millions of cheats, but there's like not really. And the assessment is very hard to go through and people don't understand what that does to you mentally.
How do you think it's going to change when people hopefully go and watch I, Daniel Blake?
I'm hoping that they understand what people are actually going through and the stress that people are going through. He did a scene in the film where he goes into the job centre and he's sticking up for somebody and there was all that anger he had. And that anger is exactly what you feel when you're going through the work capability assessment, and it's exactly what you feel when you lose your paperwork and they never apologise. That anger is brutal, and that is the truth. That is what's inside of people all the time, you know. How
do you think it kind of like resonates with your life and what you've seen on screen is going through what you've went through?
I think like the physical stuff's quite good. It would resonate with the physical stuff. I don't know, I haven't seen enough of the film to know about the mental health stuff, and I think we need to look at the mental health stuff because people really don't understand mental health in Britain. There's a lot of stigma, a lot of abuse towards people with mental health. And if we don't have a valve where we can walk away from it, which is why you go on to benefits, then what happens if you're forced to work and somebody's bullying at work or something like that? You know, do you blow? You blow, and then what happens? You get a criminal record. So they're forcing you into what they're accusing of being. They're gonna and people are being forced to go out and steal. And I'm not sure what happens in Daniel Blake because I haven't been able to watch it yet, but I'm absolutely itching to watch the film. I'm one of those people that have had enough in life and I can only take so much, and when I've took that amount, that's it. You know, and if I go homeless, I'm 5'2", I've got no chance of surviving. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke weed, I don't do any of that, but everyone's associated with that. And can you imagine me trying to survive? There is people who do that are homeless, and can you imagine a 5'2" woman trying to survive homelessness? And people are saying that we're not vulnerable. I think even as somebody who was an ex-soldier, I'm an ex-TA soldier, I'm pretty vulnerable. You know, I couldn't cope with that, you know.
Well, this is just your story that we're hearing, but the scary and the sad thing is that...
It's millions of other people.
If you ask anyone, any of the people that you know and you talk to about this, you campaign for, how many other stories are like this across the world?
There's absolutely millions. If you go online and look at DPAC, there's a lot of stuff from DPAC and there's a lot of stories. There's a list of all the suicides that they know have been related to the work capability assessment. Like there's people who've starved, there's people who's been diabetic, who's had their money stopped, and because they've had no money, you can claim a hardship fund, but they don't always give it, and you've got to wait 2 weeks. If you're a diabetic and you can't put your fridge on, you've run out of electric, and not everybody's like me. They can't, you know, if you've got nothing for long term, you can't stock up when you've got nothing long term. I'm lucky because I know what's coming and I follow what's going in the parliamentary pages and things like that. So I follow what's going. So I've got a chest freezer full of food just in case my money's stopped, and it's got to an obsession where I have to pay my bills as much as I can up front.
If you could have one thing that comes from I, Daniel Blake, say, what would be the one thing that you hope, what the one message that you hope that it gets across to people who aren't on JSA, who aren't claiming, who aren't in the benefit system? What would be the one thing that you hope they get from this?
A humanity transplant. They need a humanity transplant. You cannot sit here in a country and abuse people who are sick and disabled. There was a time when people cared for people who are sick and disabled, and now everyone's just looking to demonise one, hate one, and blame them for being scroungers. And it's this government that's caused the scrounger rhetoric. It is the Tories what's done the scrounger rhetoric. When it was under Labour, you'd go for a medical and it wasn't as bad as. But under the Tories, the demonisation has been absolutely terrible of people. And I think people need to know that they've been brainwashed. You're watching benefit porn, you're watching people's lives. People have got to live. We can't look at four walls when we're ill. What do you want me to do? Live off 40 quid and look at four walls when we've got health problems. You wouldn't do it to your own mother, you wouldn't do it to your own sister or your own brother, but you think it's all right to do it to somebody you've never met on the street. This country needs a humanity transplant. We need to get back to caring for each other in the community. We call it divide and rule politics in campaigning. It's divide and conquer. Basically what they're doing is dividing the communities and turning people on people.
Well, I've been a stand-up comic for 27 years, you know, and I've done a few plays up in the Edinburgh Festival. I did a play in 2003 called 12 Angry Men, you know, the courtroom drama thing, and the Reginald Rose thing. And the producer there, we did a few plays, just comics, you know, and but serious plays. And they went really well. And then the producer said to me, "Oh, Ken Loach is looking for a guy your age. They've got a new film up in Newcastle that they're going to be making. And so put so go and sort of and stick your hat in the thing, you know." And I said, "Oh, well, you know." So I texted my details through to the casting people. Said, "Oh, I'm a stand-up comic. I'm about that age. I hear Ken's looking for somebody." I didn't hear anything. Then I got a phone call saying, "Would you come in and meet Ken?" I had a 10-minute chat with Ken. And the way Ken works is he wasn't interested about what I've done before. I mean, he loves comics. He's got a great sense of humour. And he just wanted to know about where I was from, my family, football. He likes to talk about football. And then I didn't hear anything for about a week, 2 weeks. And then I got asked to come in for a casting. Went in, did a couple of improvisations, which was conversations, which some actresses, who Hayley was the first one, and basically who plays Katie in the film. We did. I had 2 recalls. Had one up here in Newcastle where there was about 3 actresses I worked with, and then he phoned me up that day and offered me the part. And I was working in sort of I was coming back and going, "Oh, this is great fun. Wow, I've got a chance to improv with sort of like Ken Loach. If I don't get the part, it's not really, it's that experience." And then when I got in the next to the first week of filming, and I saw in the office all the North East actors that had been up for it, I was like, because I thought I was just like, because when I was doing it by myself, I thought I'm the only one. And I saw all these, and I thought, and then I thought, what have I done? There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. You know what I mean? But, you know, it turned out I was okay in it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about your performance, but you mentioned there Hayley Squires. Did you just click straight away, or did it take time?
It's very, very weird. Hayley was the first actress that I did my first scene with, and I was the first guy she worked with. And I remember coming back and I spoke to friends and to my partner, and I said, Jude, and I said, "This girl I work with, she's amazing. Again, she's bound to get it." I said, "She's just so spot on." And then I went away and did it with other people. She went away and did it with other blokes, and we came back together. And it was so funny because when Ken offered Hayley the part, she said, "Who got the part of Dan?" And she said, "Dave." And she went, "Oh, great. I'm so glad he got it." And they said to her, "That's exactly what Dave said." So we clicked straight away, you know.
Well, I mean, from what I gather, I haven't seen the movie as of yet. Well, I'm going to be at the premiere on Tuesday night.
Excellent.
From what I gather, the chemistry on screen and the way that you are working is either written beautifully or there's a bit of improv in there. How does Ken like you to do it?
Well, there is a script. I mean, Paul Lafferty has written all Ken's scripts. His script is absolutely, you know, he did a lot of research in this, you know. He did a lot of interview with people who had been gone through this, you know. He did a lot of people who worked at job centres. So basically it's been very well researched, and all the scenes that you see are scenes that have actually happened to people, which have all been woven into Kate and in Dan's story. The thing about Ken is you don't get the script. You only get a couple of pages of script every day. So I didn't know the end of the film till the day before we shot it. And he keeps sort of, and it's to keep it spontaneous so that you can't as an actor go, "Oh, on page 36, this is our big scene," and talk about it, because he wants it to be real. And when you work with somebody like Hayley, she's such a good actress. She's in the moment all the time. So it makes it very easy for somebody playing against her because she gives you so much, you know. So that really helped me a lot, you know.
And I suppose being a stand-up as well, you have an idea of what you're going to do on a night time. You have your 2 pages, let's call them, but then you'll get a heckle and you'll be able to go off and you'll be able to tell another story, or you'll be able to put someone down. Did Ken kind of like want you to improvise, add a few extra lines here and there when you were doing your scenes? Well,
how he works, Ken, is that it's scripted, but what he does is, and which is a great testimony to Paul Lafferty, who's the writer, that he's not precious about, like some writers are so precious about one little tiny word. He wants you to make the script your own. So if you throw in a little bit here and there, he wants it to be you. He wants it to be real, you know. I mean, the one thing, Ken, which stuck with me when we started filming, he said to me in Haley, he said, this film has no music in it. It's got no musical score. He said, so there's nowhere for an actor to hide. If you aren't giving a true performance, you'll be caught out and you'll see it. And he said, you know, the music isn't there. It's not telling people how to feel. So all you have to do, both of you, is listen to each other. You have to listen to each other and play the truth. And if you listen to each other properly and you play the truth, you will get the right performance. But yeah, I mean, there was bits that, you know, you bring it to you learn the lines and then you make that your own by sort of like, you know, sort of if you inhabit it in a way, you know, because I lived Dan's life really, because every day I didn't, you know, 2 days into the film and I didn't know what was going on, and each day you get a bit of the script, so you're actually, and he shoots chronologically from day one, which most films don't, so you're living the life really, so that's how you get that spontaneous. That's why it feels like you've just walked into a room in the unemployment office. I mean, friends said to me, I've seen clips of it and it just looks like I've walked in and these two people is all hell breaking loose, and it's because it's that feeling that it's happening in the moment there and then. Those people are saying those words for the first time, you know.
And some of the reviews, I mean, people have been crying. Journalists have been crying. Journalists don't cry. Journalists have been watching the movie and crying.
Journalists don't cry. That's a good one. Charlie don't surf and journalists don't cry.
What's your reaction been to people's reaction of the movie?
Well, what's happened is when we went to Cannes, we were shown the film on the Friday, and we got there on the Thursday, went out for dinner, and they showed 3 press screenings. And the PR guy came in when we were having dinner and said something really weird's happening. And I was like wigging, talking to Ken and Rebecca O'Brien, who's the producer, and he said, there's been journalists in tears. And I was thinking, oh no, it must be really horrible, it must be really bad. you know you think. And he said, I've never seen that before. So there was a buzz about it in Cannes, you know, people were really buzzing about it. And it was a sort of feeling that something special was happening. Then we did the screening to 2,000 people in the main theatre in Cannes on the premiere, and we got a 14-minute standing ovation. And that, to me, I mean, when we filmed this in Baker, right, last October, November, that was a million miles with me. I was just thinking, as long as I don't ruin Ken's career, I'll be fine with this, you know. And then we've been taking it around festivals, and it's been the same feeling everywhere in Europe. We did Locarno, where we won the Audience Award. We've won 2 Audience Awards, one in Locarno, one in San Sebastian. We showed the film in the Piazza Grande in Locarno, 8,000 people on a 24-metre size screen. And when you see a big Daft Geordie head that size up, it's a shock. And you could hear a pin drop in that piazza. And when it finished, the round of applause was stunning. And that people were crying, and everybody came up to me and said, this is happening in our country, this is happening in Spain, this is happening in Italy, it's happening everywhere. Austerity, people saying we've had enough of this, you know, we've had enough of paying the price, the ordinary working people. And I think that's what's happened, and the reaction has been amazing. And I think if we get half because this is the first time it's going to be shown in the UK, and we showed it. We've shown a couple of previews. We did the first ones down at the Labour Party conference, which I was asked to go as a speaker, which was another amazing thing. And we showed it there the first time in the UK, and it was the same reaction, people in tears. Because what it is people have been branded too much now, that everybody who needs help, everybody who needs sort of, social security, anybody who needs sort of welfare is a scrounger, is an idle scrounger, and it's a lie, it's a myth. And what's happened is Dan could be your grandfather, he could be your uncle, he could be your dad, Katie could be your sister or your daughter. And what it is these are shown as ordinary, decent people who need help. And they're branded from the minute they try to get for help that they're trying to pull one over on the state. And that is why it's got people angry, and it's also got people in tears, because people feel an empathy with them. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you see injustice, you know, and people are branded this because they feel forgotten. They feel left behind, And I think that's why it's resonating all over Europe.
I've spoken to a few people who saw a screening in the Metro Centre on Saturday, and a few of them are claimants, and they've said that the scenes, in particular the one where Hayley comes in and she's going to get sanctioned for being 15 minutes late, they've said that anger that's portrayed is exactly how it's like in real life. So I think you're right, it resonates because people aren't scroungers, people aren't trying to pull one over the system, people have got issues and problems.
They need help.
And they need help.
Yeah.
Is that the message that you hope comes from this movie? I
think that for too many years, the working class have been turned against each other. There's been a systematic, in the media, in the press, it's done deliberately so that the working class go, I'm not going to go to work so those dole-walling scroungers can lie about the place. And, most people, if you look, most people are about 2 or 3 paychecks away from being in the same boat. And, what we should be doing in this country is if you're making wealth and you've been lucky enough to make wealth, there's nothing wrong with being rich. There's nothing wrong with making wealth. But you have a moral duty. It's a no-brainer that if we build a welfare system and a national health service that is there for everybody, it's a great thing. It doesn't matter if you never have to use it. And people feel as though they are part of the system. And, and we should be able to help people who are in dire need. And this is the anger that I think is coming out. And I think what this will do, it will make people... This is a really weird thing. A friend of mine said she went to see the film in one of the sort of previews, and she said she was talking to this woman in the shop. She went, I saw this amazing film. I, Daniel Blake, me, my husband. She goes, I know the guy who plays the lead. She says, I never knew that was going on. She says, me and my husband have worked for a long time. She says, it's made me think, and this was the most amazing thing, where I'll put my cross in a vote. And if you can make people realise that people who need help aren't scroungers, they're just ordinary people like me, like you, like your mum, like your dad, who got into trouble. But it's been systematically pushed, and, things like, Benefit Street doesn't help, all these negative things that these people who have got nothing get a bit of, media attention, and they start showing off, and they know it. But, most people feel as though it must be the worst. Dan fills in a form, a 52-page form, for his assessment for his income and support. Now, I am an intelligent bloke. And Ken gave it to me. He said, fill this in. Fill this in. And afterward, and I went back. I said, I can't. I said, it's insane. And I thought, if I can't do it, imagine if you're sick and the stress and the worry you will get by trying to fill in this form, that you might lose your support and your help. It's things have to change. We have to start changing people's ideas about what's we are about in society. If you've got no compassion for people, then we're lost, really. What was one of the most surprising things? I mean, that form's going to blow people's minds for a start, but what was one of the most surprising things that you learned from the benefit system as it is at the moment then? Well, I've been very lucky. I've been a stand-up comic for a lot of years. And I've never had to sign on to the... I mean, I think the last time, and before that was a bricklayer, and I worked at the theatre. So I've been very lucky that I probably signed on. The last time I signed on was in the 70s, where it was the labour exchange. You went down, you signed on, and then you went into the thing, and there was cards, and they used to send a telegram, a little guy on a telegram to go, oh, there's a job coming, you're a bricklayer, And what's happened now is I never knew about sanctions. I didn't know how totally arbitrary they are, that somebody can come, can be late for no fault of their own. Some people have had it when they've gone for an interview for a job and been late and gone, I've gone for an interview for a job. You have to appeal now, and it's that thing of people have been saying, when Paul did the research, that people who have worked for the benefit system have said they were on quotas, and the assessment people are all outsourced from American companies and places like that, and the money they pay to implement this ridiculous regime would go to help the people who it's needed. So I learned that I was stunned about everybody has been tarred with the same bush. That the minute you sign on, after a couple of weeks, you are regarded as a scrounger, and you've got to try and prove that you're not, you know. And for people's self-esteem, it's just so appalling. And you know, you will get one or two people who play the system. You know, look what happened to the bankers. They've been playing the system for years, fiddling the LIBOR rates and all that. You know, but most people, the majority of people, are ordinary people, and I think there has to be a massive overhaul of this. You know, we have to get our priorities right. You know.
We'll get back onto your performance. You mentioned there you were a brickie, going from a brickie to Oscar buzz. Like, do you just have to pinch yourself?
And this is insane. Yeah, somebody sent me. Basically, what happened was Variety magazine is the big entertainment magazine in America, and the guy and their reviewers have loved the film. They in Cannes, they gave it such a great review. They loved it, and basically what's happened is they've got this page that they have where they sort of list contenders for the Oscars, and they've got like Denzel Washington at the top and Tom Hanks for his new movie, and the list goes down to 21, and I'm sandwiched between Jake Gyllenhaal and Colin Farrell. And I look at that and it just makes me laugh. And people are going, you know, to even be thought of that in such a, I mean, this is I did a play 2004, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, all comedians, and Christian Slater played Matt Murphy, and I got a text message from Christian Slater 2 days ago going, "Oh my God, buddy, I've just seen Variety. I can't believe it." He was going mental about it, you know, and it's crazy. I mean, it's daft. I mean, you know, I'm not going to win an Oscar, but just to be mentioned in that, and just to, it's fun. You know, I'm going to laugh at it. You know what I mean? I'm going to have a laugh with it. And all my mates are all really happy for his. I mean, the comedians on the circuit have been absolutely so supportive for this. I mean, they watched the red carpet at Cannes. They go, "We were there with you. We've lived it," you know. So and it's great for the Northeast. There was a load of comics in the film. There's Gavin Webster, who's a comic. He's in the film, and there's there's Mickey Hutton, who's my oldest mate. I've known him for 52 years. And we have this big argument where he has his dog doing its business on my front grass. We have this little exchange, which will be there forever, you know, me and him, till when we're long dead, we'll be fighting with each other on celluloid.
And what's this film done for your, movie career now? Is like people knocking at your door saying,
"I'm the new Spider-Man"? Basically, I'm a pensioner Spider-Man. No. I've got a new agent, which is great. I've got, you know, the doors are opening for us, which weren't there before. You know, I'm getting interest. You know, once you're in the sunlight, it's great. People are going, "Wow, I didn't know you could do that." So yeah, I mean, things are opening up for us. I've had a few castings. I've had a call back for a big thing that's going to be. Amazon Prime, so I don't know if, but you know, things are opening up. I had a few scripts sent to us, which my agent is reading, but you know, I mean, if I never did another film ever again and I was still on the circuit, to think that I've been in a Ken Loach film, who is, thank the heavens that we've got people like Ken Loach who make films like they do. Thank the heavens we've got writers like Paul Rafferty who write these things. If I've been in a Ken Loach film, it's won the Palme d'Or, which is one of the most prestigious film awards you could get. I mean, when I looked at the list of the films that have won the Palme d'Or, it's like Taxi Driver, MASH, Apocalypse Now, The Third Man, The Piano, you know, things like that, you know. And I went, wow. And if I've got that, if I never do another thing again, what a way to... That's there, and I can't be. You know, I've been in a Ken Loach film. It's won a Palme d'Or, and so I don't know. I mean, I'm always been the one that goes, I'll try anything, you know, and I'll have a go. And I'd love to do more films. I'd love to do a sitcom. I'd love to do stuff like I did. You know, I did a sitcom a few years ago and it disappeared without trace on BBC Three. I had a little part in it, but you know, it's just a thing of you have to in this business be open to new things, and you have to not get bitter, and you have to just enjoy what you're doing in the moment. I think, you know, and I'll still love stand up. I still do stand up, but I can do the gigs I want to do now rather than the horrible stags and hens. So, you know, yeah, I would like to do it. We've got some scripts and we'll see what happens, really.